Hi, it's Lee and welcome to the Tesla Economist. Eventually, there will come a time when Tesla produce their own in-house LFP cells. Yes, the Chinese are making an absolute ton of them and expanding rapidly. I think this is actually starting to take on quite an exponential curve, especially as supply chains open up more and the actual bandwidth of these resources increase, along with improvements in technology, efficiency, and applications. Tesla's own in-house LFP cell can just be for energy in a form factor designed entirely for production speed. The cost will be low enough anyway, it will be all about scaling to the extreme. Thermal management won't be a big deal compared to nickel, and form size will be more or less irrelevant as it doesn't have to fit within the structure of a car. The energy density is also of less importance too, as it will be stationary. I have no idea what form factor Tesla are thinking. The casing doesn't need to be thick enough for a car structure either. It will all be about how fast Tesla can make the actual jelly roll. I'm guessing that will be the bottleneck in production. Then the casing itself can be used to contain as much of the jelly roll as possible. They would still be tabless in design, so as to help with the production speed, as having to make tabs slows down production speed dramatically with the starting and the stopping all the time. I would say almost everything will be compromised, for lack of a better word, around production speed. Tesla have to scale to the extreme. We need 300 terawatt hours as soon as possible. If you recall on Battery Day, Elon said Tesla aimed to reach 3 terawatt hours a year by the end of this decade. Well, at that rate, it would take 1 century to make enough cells for that target if it was Tesla alone. Do we have 100 years to complete this mission? Well, by then, we would already need to start replacing the batteries. I don't think that is fast enough speed to be sustainable. Sure, they will be recycled, but they still need to be manufactured again. And it's starting to feel like the other battery manufacturers may even surpass that level by the end of the decade. I think this is meant to happen more like in the next few decades. Maybe 2040 to 2050, we should be getting close to that target, but no other manufacturer is going to contribute close to what Tesla is. These cells may be produced at something like 20 times the traditional speed. Although Tesla may help other battery manufacturers with things like dry battery electrode processes or maybe tabless designs, so they can expand too. But either way, and that's what it's going to come down to then. There'll be the mining, refining, and then the jelly roll. Then it will all be deployed into energy storage. We need to see rates faster than 3 terawatt hours a year, although that figure also included cells for vehicles too. Remember though, the LFP is a more simple process too, compared to nickel. Again, due to the thermal issues that nickel cells cause. The lithium too, it needs to be a higher grade for nickel. We need lithium hydroxide. LFP can use technical grade lithium. It's lower cost and faster to refine. Also, the separators are more simple too. On the other hand, we may have seen advances in sodium ion cells as well. Sodium is going to be far more abundant than lithium. It is, however, a lot more reactive. If you can remember back in science class and watching what happens when you just place it in water. I think for this reason, we will not see sodium in cells for vehicles, as perhaps it may be more dangerous in an accident. However, it might be a totally different case for energy storage. Remember, it's all about production speed for energy cells in every way, as we don't have to be so concerned with the cells getting damaged or size to fit in a car or density for travelling. So even if sodium ends up being 20% less energy dense, it works if you can make twice as many. If lithium processing is perhaps the bottleneck with more cells. But once Tesla have perfected their dry electrode process, anything is possible. I liken Tesla batteries to a money printing machine, as every cell can be allocated somewhere at great profit. But when they sort this process out, it gets about 10 times faster, and that's now. Who knows what other breakthroughs come through after that again. This LFP cell will be the most produced cell in the world. Those energy LFP cells will have low energy density. They won't contain any silicon. Silicon is great for improving energy density, but it still expands and eventually cracks, thus reducing the longevity of the anode. It will simply degrade that much faster. It also probably makes the production process more complex. Like I keep saying, this cell will be all about speed. These are going to be very simple cells, just iron phosphate cathodes and graphite anodes. I would say the cathode should be easier than nickel too, as despite iron cells being heavier per kilowatt hour, iron is actually less dense than nickel. So possibly that makes it easier on the production line, perhaps with the calendar. But as these iron phosphate cells are going to be so basic, then that would also mean that they won't degrade as fast, and degradation is going to be important. Sure, we hear LFP batteries probably last about 2 million miles in a car before they lose maybe 25% of their charge. That is fantastic. The car will likely have been worn out before the battery. However, with energy storage, we want them to last as long as possible. We might look at charging cycles of around 10,000 perhaps of in time. At a guess too, the larger the cell, then the more charging cycles it could handle, due to it having a larger capacity. I really don't know how large a form factor you could actually have with a tabless LFP, where size and energy density were not as important. I know there are some serious battery experts that do listen to me. If any of you can comment on your theories as to just how large an LFP cell could be, then please let me know in the comments. Although Elon said it would be a different form factor from the 4680, it was somewhat ambiguous as to whether it would still be cylindrical or not. I doubt it would be prismatic. I think Elon was just talking about the form factor size. I think it would still be cylindrical, as that is what is the fastest on the production line. However, if they are that big, then the jelly roll might be the bottleneck on the production line anyway. So who can say? LFP doesn't really get recycled these days. I guess at least not the Chinese ones, as the minerals are already so cheap and abundant. It's cheaper to make them from scratch. However, if we are consuming this many cells, it is morally wrong for them to end up in landfills. Elon has at least said that they will recycle their LFP, but the Chinese LFP cells do concern me in this regard. Hopefully they will do what is right, as there's going to be so many of them. And what if this is what Elon announces for the Master Plan Part 3? What if it is Tesla's new LFP cell that is required for energy? The plan is to scale to the extreme, and 4680s sure are something, but not close to what is necessary for 300 terawatt hours. I would expect Elon to mention some sort of path on how they plan to scale this big with this plan. Then Tesla's energy business will really start to crank. Although I'm still not sure about solar. That also requires some scaling too, to the extreme, and we have heard very little about it. Perhaps Tesla are working on a revolutionary new solar panel that will be much lower cost, have a long lifetime, and be able to manufacture a lot faster. I wouldn't expect it to be much more efficient though. Solar also concerns me in regards to recycling and landfills. I know there are a lot of open theories here. I try to have the most holistic Tesla channel as possible to cover as many areas as possible, as there are so many layers when it comes to Tesla. And I am admittedly throwing out quite a few ideas and perhaps speculating here somewhat, but I hope it is at least thought-provoking for you. And as there is so much, I can't really be expected to know it all. But I make videos like these sometimes to really get ideas back from all of you in the community too. I then read all your comments and eventually fill in the blanks and report back to you from what I've taken on in your areas of expertise too, until we have evolved enough to really get a good idea of the future of this company, which is really what we're trying to do here. Predict the future, which is what investing is. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.